Thank you, everyone, for being here and enjoying this channel, Coffee with a Poet. And I am here today with the wonderful Joe Uveges. And thank you so much for being in the studio today, Joe. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Diane. It's a pleasure to be here, honestly. I am a singer-songwriter from Colorado Springs. I've been working here for almost 37 years now. Kind of wasn't really ever planning on being a singer-songwriter. I was a concert pianist or a classical pianist as a kid, and then picked up the guitar in college and started writing songs when I was about 17. But never, I was Eastern European, Hungarian family. Get it straight ahead. Thinking I was going to be an engineer when I went to college, and that went poorly with Physics 1. And then from then on, I became a sociology history major, double major at Union College in Schenectady, New York, and then did some other things. Found myself studying to be a priest for a short time, and wandered across the country and found myself in Colorado Springs. And was visiting with a dear friend of mine from high school who was stationed here at the Air Force Academy. And we sat down to play guitar one day, and we had this incredible vocal blend. His name was Jim Sokol. And we still play together to this day, 36 years later. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and how I really got into it was because we entered a songwriting contest down at Poole Richards in downtown Colorado Springs. And there were 3 judges there, and one of them was a gentleman named Phil Volan. And we won the songwriting contest, and Phil invited us to come and perform, and we ended up performing. And I heard Phil play and fell in love with his guitar playing style. Became a student of his. He invited me to play professionally within a couple months, and I've been doing it ever since. So it's been an incredible journey.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
love that. So, okay. You want to talk about your film that's coming up?
Yeah, so I had a crazy experience. My daughter, Katie, graduated from Greeley, from northern Colorado in Greeley. And I think it was in her freshman year, there was a guy who was a junior in one of her classes. His name was Alex Graff, Graff. And they became fast friends. And somehow they talked about music, and she gave him a CD of mine. This is going back 13, 14 years ago. And Alex started accessing my music somehow, either CDs or maybe it was online, I'm not sure. And he wrote and directed a film that is going to be released in the next 6 months. The trailer is out now, and the film is called Serving Memories. And Alex called me up 2.5 years ago and said, you don't know who I am, but I have been following your work for about a decade now. And he said, I would like to ask you to write a song for this film. And I said, well, let's meet. So we met for coffee up in Denver. And he told me the basic gist of the film. And basically gist of the film is that it's a song about these 2 servers who are working a restaurant in Denver. And they kind of become fast friends. And the film is about them looking back over the course of their life at the relationships they've had, their relationships specifically with their parents. And he asked me specifically, could you write this song as a duet with your daughter? So Katie and I wrote it together. And this song is called You and I. And we performed it for him. And then we did it live in the film, along with a couple other songs. And that was the most extraordinary thing, because they asked you to do this. We did each song 5 times.
Yeah.
Right? So
right.
you're there, you play the same song 5 times in a row, and then do the next song 5 times in a row. And of course, everybody who's listening has to act as if they're hearing it for the first time, Yeah. So anyway, I think it's going to be a lovely film. I watched the trailer a couple weeks ago, and he did a beautiful job with it. Yeah.
I saw that trailer, and hopefully we'll be able to put that in here right about now.
That's great.
And let the audience see it. So
great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. The promotion would be fantastic for him.
Right.
Any other night, forget time's passing.
It's pretty clever, Lucas.
You can be brilliant, and it doesn't matter. The world will actually work against you because you don't fall in line.
I just believe that great songs hit the same parts of people's hearts.
Sweetie, not everyone has hearts like ours.
What you listening to?
Just some song of mine.
Let me listen.
What? No, Lucas. It doesn't even matter anymore.
Maybe it matters to me.
How long have you been performing with Katie?
Well, crazily enough, she was one of those kids, kind of like myself, who it was an innate gift for her. So she was harmonizing with me probably by the time maybe she was 4 or 5. I mean, it was that early.
Wow.
And I think I had her on stage for the first time when she was 5 years old.
Oh.
She came up and she sang a song that Phil had written, and and he actually wrote it for her, with the idea of this little voice singing, "Daddy, look at my dress, ain't it pretty?" I hope you're watching me from somewhere above. It's about the father who's died. Okay.
Oh my God.
And yes, it's poignant. So I'm hoping that doesn't, in fact, come true. In the near future.
Only
anyway.
right.
At some
Yeah,
point
it won't.
will. But anyway, so she actually did that with me, and then I probably had her. She probably came up and did a song or two with us a number of times over the course of the next 3 years, and then when she turned 8, boom, done.
Really?
Didn't want to do it anymore. Was petrified of being on stage. She started studying piano about that time, and then at the age of, I would say, 10 or 11, she approached me and said, "Dad, you'll never have to ask me again to practice if you let me take violin instead of piano." And I was heartbroken, because I feel like piano is like the greatest instrument for for theory and all those things. But she was right. We got a violin for her. She started studying with Hope Greitzer, who was formative in Black Rose, up at the Black Rose Community Center, with Charlie Hall back in the day. And she had a great experience with that. And she still plays with me now. She plays violin and sings.
Excellent.
Isn't that great?
Would you like to play?
Yeah, I'd love to play a little
song for us?
something. Sure. This song came out of I was on my way to record an album called Promise of Portage in Asheville, North Carolina, and I wrote the first 2 verses of this song in my backyard just before leaving, and it's all I had. And when I got to Asheville, the second night I went to see a brilliant songwriter named Robert Earl Keen play at I think it's called the Orange Peel or the Orange Blossom in downtown Asheville. And I blew my voice out singing along with Robert Earl that night. And I came back to the studio at 2 a.m. and the song, I had to tune the whole guitar down in order to finish the song. Climbing the mountain backward, seeing only where you've been. Feel the warm sun on your back. You watch your shadow growing long and thin. Climbing the mountain backwards with poets and profiteers. Find a small child on your path. You carry them for just a few short years. You pass ancient temples, giant armies, and the castles we played in when we were only kids, soaring eagles, fields of barley. This broken taxi is still climbing. Climbing the mountain backwards. You rip the soles out of your shoes. Oh, what the hell is life good for? If you can't learn to live with what you lose. You lose the temples, lose the armies, and the forest we played in when we were only kids, soaring eagles, fields of barley. This broken taxi is still climbing. Captain, come in and give me fire on the way, 'cause I'm fine, but not tonight. Tonight I'm burned out, But I'm climbing up the mountain, past ancient temples and the castles we played in when we were only kids, soaring eagles, fields of barley. This broken taxi is climbing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that. That's wonderful. That was beautiful.
Thank you so
Absolutely
much.
beautiful. So tell us a little bit about how writing a song is similar to poetry.
Okay, so the two do intertwine. There's the thing I think that is the most problematic for poets who want to write songs is that there are more rules in songwriting than there are in poetry. I write poetry, and I write it with the intention of it not being a song, generally speaking, because I don't want the rules. I don't want to have to follow the rules. And the rules for songwriters are things like a chorus that's hooky, that repeats. You really want to have some kind of rhyme scheme, generally speaking. I've heard, and I've written actually great songs also, and heard great songs that had no rhyme scheme at all, but they're rare. They're rare. You also want to have, generally speaking, some kind of structure to the song, whether it's a verse, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, or a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, or a verse. There's all kinds, or maybe it's just an AAA structure. So all three parts of the song are exactly the same, but they say different things. You know what I mean? So there's this, and for every rule that exists, we talked about this last week. For every rule that exists in songwriting, I could probably name you 5 songs that break the rules. Okay,
Right.
So you also want to have kind of a lyrical flow that rhythmically matches verse to verse to verse, and that's another one that if you want to avoid at all costs Yoda speak. Enjoying this conversation, I am.
Yeah, right.
Right. Because
Yeah.
because we don't speak that way.
Exactly.
You want it to be colloquial, right? That you want it to be catchy. You want it to be elegant. It wants to flow off your tongue. So
Yes.
those are the kind of things that I look for in songs myself, and I especially love great songwriters who can write things that have double and even triple rhymes in them.
So rhyme on rhyme.
Rhyme on rhyme on rhyme, exactly. I wrote something fairly recently that the verse was, this blessed day, this holy dove, whistling through the skies above, whispering words of endless love. I give
Nice.
up.
Nice.
So there's double, triple rhymes in there, right? So those kind of things, rhyming is fairly important. I mean, obviously in the world of rap, I mean, it's all about the rhyme.
Exactly.
It's and the delivery, this kind of rapid, rhythmic, staccato delivery that also has nuances because it's the changing of that delivery that makes the song interesting. Right,
Yes.
or makes the
Yes.
delivery interesting,
Exactly.
And there's great rap artists. I'm not a big rap fan, but I can really appreciate when it's done well.
Right, and there's so much emotion when I hear some of these rappers or poets speak with such emotion, and that's really important as well. I wanted to, and I really, really appreciate you being. We were so fortunate to have you do our workshop last week.
I loved it. I had such a great time.
It was we learned so much. It was really wonderful. Can you talk a little bit about what we did in the workshop? What you some of the highlights of the workshop?
Yeah, so we had this beautiful hour and a half event, and Diane asked me to come and talk about kind of what we're talking about today. How does poetry relate to songwriting? And I talked a little bit about the rigidity of songwriting, and of course the fact that you break a lot of rules. And then there was a couple other people there who were songwriters who actually kind of waxed eloquent about their process, and one of them actually played a song. I think the highlight for me was probably the first song that I played for you that day was a very what's the word? a lighthearted kind of lyrical tune that was inspired by a goldfish that was sitting on the floor of our kitchen, like one of those little, now who I'm fairly certain now are probably going to be banned because of the orange dye, right?
Right.
Right, which may be a good thing. I don't know. Of course, I raised my kids on them, and you probably poisoned the heck out of them. Anyway, but I came out this one day, and there was I knew I hadn't written a song in like a couple weeks, and my wife actually called me on it, to her credit. And I went out to the kitchen, and there was this goldfish sitting on the floor of the kitchen. And so this whole song flowed from that little goldfish. There's a goldfish on the floor of my kitchen, pizza flavored. I bet my kid left it there. There's potatoes in a plastic bag just wishing for a moist bed in the sunny springtime air. There's a rubber band that's telling me to bounce back from every hurt that I have ever known. And I'm a goldfish swimming in the springtime air, and I'm bouncing back, I'm bouncing back, I'm bouncing back, and I'm not alone.